tonight, huh?
Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Why is that awesome? No, we've already hit the. You know what? There's people all over the world now listening to us, and you're talking about it being in. How could you were a helicopter pilot, and then you went to an infantry grunt, and you think that was more awesome than the helicopter pilot?
Because they paid me to shoot most every day. There's nothing like that.
Yeah, just shooting stuff.
Yep.
All right. And what years were you in the service?
From 83 to 98.
For 15 years.
I was in and out a few times. I had remedial training.
Like jail, you were in and out a few times.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're here, and this is one of our bi-weekly little chit-chats, and we're talking with Mike Deverell from Gig Harbor, Washington, who has a 28 by 30 building. It's almost perfectly square.
It is almost.
And it's painted in AML colors. Beige.
It is. It is.
And it's in Gig Harbor, Washington, which is west of Tacoma. So you got to go across the Puget Sound, across the Galloping Gertie Bridge, which is no longer Galloping Gertie. And in earlier podcasts, when I was talking about that, I called it the Galloping Goose. And the two Bruces that are here with us tonight, they thought that was funny because I named it incorrectly, and I said, well, when I'm on their oh, wait a minute, they don't have a podcast. So anyways, okay, that's it's so anyways, Mike, let me introduce us to you. My name's Lionel, and this is my brother Bruce, and this is my other brother Bruce.
Hello, Bruce.
Hello. Two Bruces, no waiting. We have Bruce Wilson, the mail boy, Bruce the mail boy, and Bruce the original super fan and the creator of the Kelly Questions. So the last time we were talking to you, we started talking about helicopters because I got off track, but we were talking about your laser that you bought and rebuilt.
Yes.
And you're creating kits that you're going to sell worldwide.
You wish. No, not even close.
What are you going to do? All right, so you got this laser, and now it works really well. It's got a 12 by 12 bed on it.
Yep.
And so it works off the computer because it cuts designs that you've made on the computer.
That's correct.
And what program do you use to draw your designs?
I use Corel Draw. But you could use AutoCAD or any of the CAD programs. The laser itself, the software and the hardware on it reads AutoCAD files. So I just save it as an AutoCAD file, and it operates just fine. And so I use Corel because I own it.
You own it? You own Corel?
Well, the software.
Oh, the software. Well, for a minute then.
So you're using a DWG or DXF format?
DXF format, yep.
Okay.
No, that was my next question.
Oh, sorry.
Which format was it? So what are the formats? Somebody's going to be interested in that. What is that? Is that the way they come off AutoCAD, is it?
Well, you know how if you create a Word document, it's called a doc, D-O-C?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you create a drawing file and it's in a DXF format, that's an AutoCAD format, and the hardware and software on the laser can read that.
Oh, okay. And that's the
and other CAD programs can read that too. It's
yes.
like I think it's a drawing exchange file is how it came DXF, I believe.
I think you are absolutely correct there, Bruce.
So is that the most common? Is that like JPEG? It's like the most common for these AutoCAD files is this DFX?
It's the earliest format that I think everybody understands.
Okay. And you use the acronym CAD. Do you know what that stands for?
I believe it's Computer Attention Deficit.
No, yeah, that's a good one, but it's actually Computer Aided Design.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was so close.
Lex Parker taught me that, and he also let me drive. He also let me drive his vet, but that's another story for another day.
And you were observing all speed limits.
I was.
He observed them faithfully.
Absolutely.
I believe that entirely.
Absolutely. I saw them. There's the speed limit. Yeah, I saw that.
I know that.
I have never, ever on this podcast said anything. People draw. That's the problem with today's society. People draw conclusions simply from innocent statements. All I've ever said is I always observe the speed limit.
How did I become a super fan?
Exactly.
He was observing the speed limit.
Yeah, you found a loophole.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. We've only ever encouraged people. I remember that day. We have only ever encouraged people to always observe the speed limit.
Yes.
Absolutely should be. Cheaper that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, we didn't want our fans out doing silly things trying to become super fans.
Exactly.
So you're the one and only who will get in on that one, Mike.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Well, true enough.
Somebody might get a chance.
Or get arrested.
Yeah, or get arrested. Do you know what auto stands for?
Automatic.
Oh, I thought that was I was thinking of the guy in the airplane, that inflatable Otto, the super Otto, the pilot.
Autopilot.
Yeah,
Autopilot.
yeah. You're thinking AUTO. I was thinking OTTO.
Whose father is Ed, but not that Ed.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Otto Vondrack. There's a shout out to Otto Vondrack. Wave to the Otto. Wave to the phone. All right. So you were talking about So how long does it take you to design a structure?
I've been working on. As a matter of fact, I found a great website. Old Sears Homes. They have a archive file of all the homes that they used to sell, and they have the floor plans and a photograph of a rendered drawing. I shouldn't say a photograph, a rendered drawing of the house. And I've been taking those and then drawing them out in CAD and then cutting them out. So for me to do something like that might take me, because I don't have to build each of the individual rooms, but it probably takes me 2 hours to 4 hours, depending on how complicated the house is, to draw it out. And then once I've got the original drawings done, take them out to the laser. Might take, if it's a simple, wood siding building, might take me 15 minutes to cut it.
Right.
If it's a brick building, because I have to cut each of the individual bricks out of it when it etches all the wood, those take a little longer, probably about an hour. So I've done a cannery that I built. It was probably 18 inches long, 5 inches wide, and 6 inches tall. That entire building, to cut it out, took me about a little over 2 hours to cut that building out. Where I've done houses, I've got a house that I built that took 30 minutes. Okay. And I practice on building flats, just making some flats for the town to put against the backdrop of houses. And those took me, I drew them up in 15 minutes, 16 minutes, and less than 5 minutes to cut them out.
Wow.
For those who aren't familiar, Mike, maybe you could just give a brief bit about what the Sears homes were, because they're a pretty neat concept of their day.
Well, they are, and anywhere in the United States where there was a railroad, you'll find them.
Who's eating?
Literally.
Who's eating?
That was me. I was moving a bag.
Sorry. You are not. You're having some chips.
No, it's a screw from Fast Tracks.
All right, go ahead. So anyways, I'm sorry.
Wherever these railroads were, what Sears did is Sears sold these houses, and they basically they sold you everything, every 2x4, every piece of wood you need, and they were color marked. And the plans were, you bought the plans, the color marks, the hardware, the windows, the doors, and everything. And they would put them in a boxcar, and they would ship them to whatever town close to you. And then you would get this boxcar full of stuff, and you would build a house.
Wow. I've found them on the internet as you've been speaking, and there's like millions of them.
Oh yeah,
Oh, there are. There are.
yeah. They
And they're
basically
all over.
sold you a kit.
Yeah, it was a kit. That's basically it. They're buying you a 1-to-1 kit of a house.
Wow. Crazy. And there's all these plans on the internet for all these homes.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so many different designs.
So I basically have just, when I was in Longmont, I taken some photographs and kind of noticed that a lot of these were Sears homes. And so what I did on the layout is I basically drew up these houses and I've cut them out. And, to say that I draw them out right the first time would be a mistake. And so I put them together. And actually what I do when I first design them, I design them out. And then I take cardstock, 110-pound paper cardstock, and I dial my laser down and I simply cut them out of paper and I kind of assemble them and see if they'll work. And if they work, they sit on the layout as a mock-up while I'm working on the layout to see if I like the way the house looks and fits.
And so, okay. And how thick is the cardstock?
The cardstock's, 15 thousandths. It's really thin stuff.
And you don't bother,
Paper.
you don't bother etching in the bricks or anything with that.
Oh no, I'll put the bricks in. Because I've already drawn them out. It's just a matter of okay, go ahead and shoot it. And when I do it in paper, what takes an hour to do in 16th-inch basswood takes on paper 10 minutes.
Can you cut styrene with a laser?
You can cut styrene. You can cut acrylic. You do not cut PVC because PVC releases chlorine gas. Not to mention it's bad for you, but it's also bad for the laser. So we don't want to kill anybody with chlorine gas. But yeah, there are some limited products you can use. But, if you got a laser, you can Google it up and see what you can cut versus what you can't. But I cut mostly basswood. I've got some plywoods that you can get at, 16th and 32nd inch plywoods. I have a laser pimp who supplies me with a product called Polyback.
Laser pimp.
Well, Laser Pimp is also known as Smokin' Joe.
Okay. Smoking Joe D'Amato.
Yep.
Smokin' Joe is my laser pimp, and he basically I contact him when I need some stuff, and because the Polyback is sold, you have to buy it in large bulk quantities, and Joe does get large bulk quantities of that stuff, and so I contact him and say, hey, I need 20 square feet. Can you cut it into 12 by 12s, and I buy it from him.
Oh, you go down on the street corner at night in the dark and say, hey, buddy, I need some
yeah, I need some Polyback, and can you help me out?
I think,
help me out, man. Yeah.
I think Smoking Joe D'Amato is everybody's pimp.
Is he a pimp or is he a dealer? He'd probably be a dealer, I think, wouldn't he?
Well, he's both, but he's the one that suggested to me that he was my laser pimp. So
okay,
I kind of kept it that way.
Sure, whatever you want, Joe. Yeah.
Well,
and what do you call
Joe
it?
has the laser.
Just don't hurt.
It's,
just don't hurt me, Joe. Just don't hurt me.
Yeah, exactly.
And what did you call this stuff that he's getting you?
It's called Polyback, and it's a MDF resin product. So it's like MDF, but it has a resin bed that holds all the MDF together. And this stuff is, how do you describe it? It's kind of got a wood property, but it's really thin. You can get it into like 7 thousandths or 15 thousandths or 20 thousandths or 30 thousandths. And so what it's really good for is making window sashes or cutting, like I've got some lattice work on some of my houses. So I've cut the entire lattice out of this stuff and I glue it on front of the house. And so it looks just like lattice in HO scale because it's really thin and really tiny.
Lattice is one of those words where you're desperately trying to say lattice and you don't want it to sound like lettuce.
Yes, exactly.
So, and this is all primarily it for the Longmont section of your layout right now?
Well, it's for my whole layout. Actually, one of the other areas I'm going to be working on is in Denver, and I have a lot of flats. And, unfortunately, in model railroading, there are very few 8, 9, 10-story buildings that are large. And so in order to, you're modeling Denver in the 1959, there's some large buildings there. And there's a lot of them right downtown where the Union Station was, 10 and 12-story buildings. And so how am I going to build those except for scratch building them? So I'll probably build those out of acrylic and then use the polyback to laminate over the acrylic. And then the idea is that I'll actually set up kind of shadow boxes on the back where I'll have lights in there, and I will have lights turning on and off in Denver at night.
That'd be cool.
They'll be around. So you'll have the downtown area will be just flats, but you'll have, lights coming on for 5 minutes and then shutting off, or one over here for a couple minutes, or some that just stay on.
Okay.
So
I
it'll
guess
be cool.
Yeah, it will be very cool. I guess the reason I was asking about Longmont is apparently there's a woman named Kylie Morrison who was shooting squirrels with a pellet gun, and I just thought I wondered if maybe you had any knowledge of that.
Do not, but I do know that she was probably bulletproofing track.
Yeah, exactly. And somehow, we don't know how, but somehow she's got a connection to Smoking Joe D'Amato.
There's probably a lot of proof of that, which is why Joe is in hiding. Up by Bruce there, or down.
Yeah, he's hiding at Microtrains.
Yeah,
yes,
he's hiding.
Engage. It's engaged, so you can hide really easy.
Yeah, he's hiding in plain sight. All right,
yes.
let's talk about operations on your railroad.
So operations. So, like I said, I think in the last time we got together, I was talking about an OpSigs publication that just came out, and I cannot recommend this book enough. First of all, it's a screaming deal that they're selling this book for $35.
Yeah, the OpSig.
Yeah, the OpSig.
Yeah, 30, 35 or 39, something like that.
It's ridiculously low. This is a hardcover 300-page book.
And what's it called?
The Compendium of Model Railroad Operations from Design to Implementation.
Compendium. That's an awfully big word.
It is. I'm sorry I used that multiple syllable word, but that's the title, so I don't have a choice.
Holy moly. So, and who do they have, who?
It's written by multiple authors, but to give you an idea of some of the folks that you might recognize, Craig Biscayr is one of the authors.
Okay.
Phil Montant, Michael Burgett, Stephen King, Seth Newman. There's a lot of really good, fantastic authors that are, some of the who's who in operations.
Sure.
And I bought this book. Now, I was already planning on doing operations of the layout. The layout was designed for operations from the get-go. But the book, if you've never done operations, have no idea what operations is, and you're interested in kind of finding out what it's about, this is probably the best $35 you'll ever spend.
It's $39.95 for members, $49.95 for non-members.
But it is well worth the price that you pay for it. And I bought mine, and I was kind of dinking around with operations and trying to figure it out. So I kind of was reading the book, was kind of going through it, and it gave me a few ideas. And so I spent 3 weeks in Southern California learning a new robot that I'm working on. My wife's description of it is it's a sewing machine on steroids.
Okay.
And it has 43 stepper motors. There's well over 80 different movements that this thing does, and it picks up little things and moves it all around.
Wow. And this is for your day job.
This is what I do for my day job.
Okay.
And so I was busy learning that, and I was trying desperately to find something to do with model railroading when I'm sitting there bored to death at night. And so I started working on operations. And when I was working on that, I started drawing out what the plan was and how it was going to do. So I think on my Facebook page for the railroad, I published a spreadsheet that I worked up of 15 trains, which since then I've discovered I was missing one. So it'll be 16 trains that I will be running on the layout, of which 5 of them, or six of them are named passenger trains. So there's the Texas Zephyr, the Santa Fe Chief, not the Super Chief, but the Chief, and all these different railroads that I'll be running, and the Denver Royal Gorge, and also I'll be running these trains on my layout, and so trying to get an idea of that. So pulling up timetables so I could see when these trains actually came into Denver, left Denver, what their operations were, and just beginning to plan out how many cars I'm going to need, how many locomotives am I going to need, how many, just everything that I'm going to need to be putting on this layout. And while that seems like a really simple task, maybe, it took me about 3 weeks to actually work on it just to get a basic plan of what I was going to be doing.
Right.
And from that, I can then begin to decide, well, how big does my crew need to be? Do I need someone to be a yard master in Denver? How many operators will I need to move the locomotives and get this stuff all? And so that's how you begin your operations plan. So I've been working on that when I'm locked away in a hotel somewhere because of work, and just kind of sitting and doing that. And a lot of that is just simple research of timetables, employee timetables as well as train time. There's a difference. Employee timetable gives you kind of, maybe what the freight car trains were doing, where the railroad timetables, they just tell you what the passenger trains are doing because they want to sell you a ticket.
Right. So
this
is I'm looking at this book now too. Like, man, oh man, these guys went to a lot of work to
it is. It's an absolutely worthwhile investment. And I'm just telling you, if you are interested, this is probably one of the best books I've ever seen on operations.
Wow. How cool is that? And how long is it? When anybody have any idea when it came out, or?
This year, probably 3 months ago.
Yeah, I think it was March, April it came out,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
The OPSIG seems to be a very well organized group, is it not?
It is.
I will say the OPSIG group is extremely well organized. Also, the train design group group is also very well organized as well. Although I think OPSIG is head and shoulders above everybody.
Train design?
Yeah, Railroad Design Group.
I do not know that one. Bruce, are you familiar with that one?
You mean the layout design group?
The layout design.
Layout design group.
The LDZig.
Oh, the LDZig, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've all heard the all right, for lack of a better word, the joke about the layout design sig, haven't you?
No.
Bruce, can I repeat this joke? Is it suitable for podcasting?
It can always be edited out if it needs to be, but it's been told before.
I don't think it's ever been told.
Maybe it's never told on the podcast, but it's been told
that might
certainly around.
Exactly. So this fella and his wife have not had relations for quite some time. So the fella is sitting on the end of the bed, and they're talking about it, and he says, as soon as I figure this out and I get it just the way I want to, it's going to be really, really good. I just need to figure it out and get it designed just the way I want to. That's not the
It doesn't work quite as well, does it?
No, that's been told, but much better. I'm missing some part of it, aren't I, Bruce?
First of all, the guy was an LDZig guy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that's one variation. The other one is the woman talking about it. Oh, my husband's an LDZig guy, and yeah, he just sits there and tells how wonderful it'll be when it's all. And, yeah,
yeah, that's right.
Anyhow, you can put.
Yeah, you can figure it out from there.
Yeah.
I think we've given enough elements now that everybody can figure out how to
read their own story.
Yeah.
And send stories to Modler's Life at Modler's
Yeah. That's right. Send your variations of that story into Modeler's Life.
Attention, Lionel Strange.
Post on the Facebook page, visitors post. And
Yeah, there you go. Put it on the Facebook page. Yeah, there you go.
So that's been, and to say that, you build a layout and it's all of a sudden operations are going to work instantly is just not true. And so a lot of the stuff that we're working on is, okay, I'm going to bring in, matter of fact, I was talking to Craig, Facebooking him back and forth, because one of the things we've all heard of slow drags, and normally on a model railroad, in a slow drag, it's just a through train. It's just coming through. Well, the issue is that I have Denver in the middle of my layout, so the slow drag is going to come to a stop, and guess where it's going to stop? Denver.
Right.
And so I was talking to Craig, and I said, okay, so once these slow drags come in and they get to the terminal point and they stop, and they turn around and they take the empties back, I understand that, but do they just then shuffle these cars in the yard and then break them up so the locals send them to where they want to? I mean, the slow drag, in today's, like the coal trains of today's, I know what they do today. So they basically go from the coal mine and they take that train and they drive it right to the coal plant that's going to burn it to make the electricity. And then it turns around and it drives right back to the coal mine to start again. But in 1959, that's not what it was done.
Right.
So I had to learn what was done in 1959. And so I was talking back and forth with Craig Biscayr saying, okay, this is the plan. Am I in the right ball field? And Craig said, yeah, he says, that actually sounds pretty cool. The idea of bringing the slow drag into the yard and then breaking it up for the locals that would go out. And then I do have a coal fire electric plant from Colorado Springs. And so that would actually be a separate train just taking the coal to that particular one. And then you'd still have slow coal drags continuing on going down to Texas or to somebody else that would go through there. So kind of just learning how to build this, design and that's just simply a coal drag. Now on the reverse, I also have an oil refinery on my layout. So coming from the south end, I have, we didn't have pipelines in 1959. So all the crude oil came to Denver for the refinery in crude oil tanks or oil cars. And then they would turn around and go back down south. But also coming out of that, you have gasoline, diesel fuel, and all those different type of products that you would have, including tar products and things like that, would actually be shipped out to different locations from that refinery. So
yes. And how far away do you think you are from having some operations on your layout?
We're going to probably start with just simple ones like running just the local trains out of Denver. That's the first trains we're going to run. We have 2 trains going south and 2 trains going north, and there'll be a day run and an evening run. And so we'll start with just those so we can get a feel of, because once I start that, and I'm actually doing Longmont is the reason why I've been building on Longmont and focusing on that was because that's where the first local train is going to actually come. So we're going to come out of Denver Rice Yard and run that first train, and that'll be the beginning of operations. So we'll just run one train and see how it works, discover what we need to learn so that on the other, on Loveland and Colorado Springs, we'll learn some things beforehand so we can actually see what we need to do and make changes as we go through it. So that was the whole reason for redesigning Longmont, that we talked about last time.
And so is Denver basically in the middle of the layout?
Denver's in the middle. It's in the dead middle of the layout. And the staging yard is right below it in the dead middle of the layout. Okay.
So is there a fair amount of travel to get from staging to Denver where the trains so where do the trains come on to the layout?
Okay. So on the north end of the layout, so we'll say from the north end, it comes on in Loveland, passes through Longmont, and then to Denver.
Okay.
And coming from the south end, it comes out of staging into Colorado Springs, through Palmer Lake, and into Denver.
Is there any place on the World Wide Web where somebody might be able to see your track plan?
There is. If you go to my Facebook page for the Colorado Front Range, the track plan is in the photo section, I believe. At least the last time I checked.
All right. Colorado. So I'm gonna check right now. I'm gonna check this out. Because nobody operates Facebook worse than I do. So
yeah, I see.
It's just it's some sort of a technical glitch that I seem to be unable to operate. For a guy that has posted for 1,145 days straight, it seems like I'd understand how Facebook works, but
I understand exactly what you're saying.
All right. I mean, I found it. I found the Colorado Front Range Railroad. You have 277 members.
Yes.
And there's a picture of this is Everywhere West. Those were cool.
Yeah, they were.
The Jeep 7.
That is Jeep 7 or Jeep 9. They're both like the same.
Okay. And let's see.
And
we're going to go to photos. Okay, I see. Oh, there's a lot of cool photos here for some of the work you've done. These are these are some of the Sears houses in Longmont.
Yep. The matter of fact, if you're looking at that, the white house with the blue car in front of it, that's actually one of my laser cut kits I built.
Ah, very cool. Very cool. Building your own kits. How about that, Bruce? Either Bruce.
Fantastic.
Great.
I know.
So I know you're using a 60-watt laser. How many fires did you start?
A few. Yeah. Learning to use a laser is having a fire extinguisher nearby.
Well, especially if you're using a 60-watt laser.
Well, it started with 40, went to 50, and now up to 60. So.
Man.
So, and the wattage is what allows you to cut through the thickness, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so a 40-watt laser will cut through paper very easily. You start getting a 16th-inch basswood will be fine. Plywoods, you have to really slow it down, and because you have to slow it down, there's a little more potential to get a fire. The best way to cut is quick and fast if you can.
Right.
And so slowing things down while it cuts better and it gets through there easier and thicker product, you're more likely to start a fire.
Ah. And so you've managed to do that a few times.
A few times I have come back and, well, normally cutting paper because paper is really, quite flammable and there's not much to get it on fire. And I'll be cutting something and I'll come back and go, oh, I see it all burnt up.
There's nothing there.
It's a nice pile of ash.
Well, your what did you call him? Your styrene. What did you call him? Your pimp. What pimp was he?
Yeah, my laser pimp.
Your laser pimp. Yeah, exactly. Your laser pimp or pimp of all things. If you need a fireman, he can also get you one of those.
I understand. Can it pack them up in a box?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big box, though, right, Bruce?
Yeah, with holes and something to eat.
And a little sandwich work. I believe me, it can be sometimes one of those things where you're cutting the last piece of it and you walk away and that's a lesson number one learned on working on a laser. Never walk away from the laser.
No,
ever.
No. Okay. I have one more question for you, but we've run out of time.
Well, that's okay.
No, it's not.
No, one question can't take that long.
This is. I feel confident that this question will involve some time.
Oh.
Do you have any more time?
I do.
All right. Well, then we're going to end this one, and we'll ask that question. This next episode of the Mike Deverell 47-part trilogy will be good. Bruce, can you give out our email address?
Our email address for those wishing to use a newfangled communication technique called email, modeler'slife, modelers with one L, modeler'slife@gmail.com.
And we have a website, amodeler'slife.com, where you can find all sorts of stuff, all kinds of buttons, a button to our Facebook page, our Patreon page, all the podcasts, decal sets, photos of listeners, our superfan page. What superfan number are you, Mike?
Sweet 16.
And you found a loophole, didn't you?
I did.
All right, that's it. Everybody say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
It's another Lincoln Homer.